Well, hello, a quick video this one about how to set modes on your radio, because I had a bit of a viewer request about someone that's coming back in to the hobby from sort of 25 years ago and couldn't get the handle on computer radios. So I thought it's worth making a quick video instead of trying to answer that in text. And of course anybody else coming in new that isn't sure or doesn't know can get the benefit of it. Just as a quick history lesson, in the olden days for you new people, and this isn't a very old radio. This is one I got in 2012 maybe. It's the Turn G9X, and although I installed what's called the Smarty Parts board, I think, which let me run ER9X on it, which was very much like OpenTX. How it came was very much a traditional type of software where each of these switches was allocated. This is aileron dual rate. This is your gear switch. That's trainer switch. Flight mode switch, elevator dual rate, rudder dual rate, throttle cut, and it was literally those is how it works, and that is how radios work. And when you used to create a model, it used to be, do you want to do a plane or glider or helicopter, and it would do all that mixing and didn't give you much control. It just said, yeah, okay, you can change your dual rates with this switch, and that's about it really. Nothing else happened. The advent of OpenTX changed all of that. So now any switch and any pot or anything can be used for any purpose. So although this makes it very flexible, and for people like me coming from a computer background, it's like, well, that makes much more sense. It's a bit weird if you're coming into it and you're not used to it, because of course one of the problems is if you ask somebody how to do something using OpenTX, they will say many different ways. It's up to you. There's no one way of doing it. And it's true for setting something simple like modes on switches. There's lots of ways of doing this. I'm going to try and show you what I would say is the easiest way, and from that point, if anybody wants to know any other stuff, feel free to ask a question. We can branch out from there. So I'm going to be using this on my Taranis X9D, but for FreeSky radios it's almost the same as the X7. I quite like the X7. I don't fly it much, but I do like the little jog wheel in terms of the interface. Though I'm tending to use the X-Lite more because of the form factor, but almost the same things. I'll be filming it on the Taranis just so I can see the screen easier. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a new model using the Taranis X9D. We're going to set up the necessary channels we need to do our mode switches and coincide it with Betaflight to see how we do that in the mixes basically. So let's go to a close-up on this, and then we'll get Betaflight up on the screen and you can see what we're doing. Okay, well, the first thing to do is to create a new model, as you might expect, and you probably won't have like a full set of stuff. You'll probably have just one. I mention this because after you do the first one, it's kind of, you'll never do it again. You'll always copy. But all you have to do is a long press and say create model. And it actually comes up and says, do you want to create a plane or a delta wing or a quad? So we will say quad. There's actually no difference in what it does. All it asks you to do is assign the channel. So throttle is channel 3, roll is channel 1, pitch is channel 2, and yaw is channel 4. Now if you exited out of that, you'd have exactly the same things as normal, because essentially that's all the defaults. Anyway, you've now got this selected, and of course you change your model name. I'm going to do a bit of a cheat as well. Normally you bind your receiver at this point. I've pre-bound this one and set it to 61, so if I just change it to 61 it will instantly connect, which is quite handy, because over on Betaflight here, let's connect there and go to receiver, and we'll see we've got stuff happening. Now I should mention on this point, normally we'd be doing the sub trims, which is this thing here, and all you have to do is go in and you can change the sub trim. That's the center bit, the min and max endpoints, and if you do have a reverse channel, if you notice my roll at the moment, that's fine. If I was to hit that, it goes the other way. So if you found one of those reverse, that's the one to use. The reason I'm not going through this now is because I already did a video on this in Betaflight Basics. I'll put a link up here somewhere, check that out. if you want to know exactly how that works. Oh, I should say that the other reason I mention the sub trim thing is you never want to use the actual trims. If you're coming from a traditional flight with planes or traditional radios, you might be used to trimming out your model. We don't do that with quads in Betaflight. We set it so our midpoint and endpoints are perfect, and everything should be taken care of with Betaflight and the accelerometers on board, so do not trim. So we're doing modes, and to do modes we want to be in the mix screen, which is this one. As you notice, we've got channel 1 to 4 ready, and it's even labelled them for us, which is quite handy. Now we are using the AETR channel map: aileron, elevator, throttle and rudder. If for any reason you're using a different mode and it does things in a different order, you can just change that around in Betaflight if you want to. Betaflight lays it out a little bit weirdly here. I'd much prefer the old way it used to do, of saying this is channel 1, this is channel 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically aux1 is channel 5 and you start counting upwards from then. So modes. Really easily. Basically we'd go to a channel we want, let's say channel 5, long press on enter, and what we're going to do is use the source. So if we just do a short press on source, we could go up and down like that, or we could actually use a switch. If we just hit the switch quickly, you'll see it change there to SF, which is quite handy because although the X9D is labelled quite nicely, you can see what they're called, the other radios don't so much. So if we just say this is SF on channel 5, that's all we've done, we've just basically said source is SF, we will see that in this little bit here you can see the rate changing as we do the switch. And so I'm going to use it as my arm switch, and what I will just do is say add range, and you'll see here it's set to auto. So I could set that aux1, or if I just flick my switch it will pick up that that is aux1. And you'll see because it's a 2-position switch it goes low to high. All I need to do is say I want it there to arm and I want this on there. So let's do another one. Let's do, I should say, if you wanted to be, you know, useful about it, you might set the mix name. So just in case you ever come back to it. Oh, I'm working on my screen here so I can't see. We'll call that arm. And then you can just take a look there and see it there, and it makes a lot more sense. But I won't do that for all of them, but you get the idea. So this is how I set up my stuff. So my channel 6, my source, and I'm going to use a 3-position switch. I'm going to use this one. So if I just click on that once, it will go to SG, and I'm going to do the same here. So I'm going to use angle mode, and that's going to be my midpoint. So you can see there that in Betaflight we've got aux2 showing because I moved this, and the off point here where it's got nothing there, that means it's acro. My midpoint is angle, and I want to do another mode here. So I use this for beeper personally, but you could move it for anything. And again, it's on auto. Just to show you, I could say it's on aux2. You can see me move there, and I will just move the range and make sure there's no overlap. So now I can see that angle, nothing, angle, beeper. And again, as I mentioned before, if you go to auto and you tool the right switch, it will pick it up. And the other thing I might do is set up air mode. I don't particularly like air mode been done all the time, so I'm going to set it on a different switch. And if I set it here, this is a 3-position switch, but I can use it as a 2-position basically. So if I go ahead on here and say, oh, it's already picked up because because I was messing around with the switch there, it's already picked up as aux3. But just to make sure, I want it on both things in case I switch down too far. All I need to do is drag this out. Now that is air mode off, and any one of those is air mode on. And you can basically carry on like that, add channels, add things to switches, and you can make it as easy as complicated as you like. But that for me is the easy way of setting up switches for modes. So you just go into your channel, you select your source, you touch the switch, and then you go back into Betaflight and you do the same thing. Touch the switch and it will just work. There you go. So there you go, that was setting up modes using a Taranis, how to do it in the radio. Hopefully that was useful, but it just scratches the surface. So if you've got more questions, if you want me to cover anything aimed towards sort of newcomers to the radio, shout up and I'll do a few more. Otherwise, don't forget to like or dislike this video, comment down below, subscribe, click on the little bell icon, all that normal stuff, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.